Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Everybody, welcome to episode number 94 of The Lumber Word. And we are welcoming back the fourth leg of the stool, Charles DeLaTorre, Industrial Forest Products.
Always glad to be back, Ash. Always glad to be back. At least he said stool and not tool.
I don't know if anybody's been to the website. Charles is going to join us on stage in Vancouver for the
Global Wood Summit.
There we go, the Global Wood Summit. Looking forward to it.
That's going to be a blast. We're going to have a lot of fun.
It's going to be a good time. Looking forward to it.
If you look at the rest of the people on that, I mean by accident, we're going to come away smarter.
Well, I was going to say there's a lot more important people than me on that list.
No, we're the sideshow at the circus.
Yeah. So we're either going to have one person in that lunch audience or a couple hundred, right? No matter what, the show must go on, though.
It should be really fun. Hopefully we'll work it out. We want to bring up a couple of guests for us to interact with. I think that could be really cool, Ash. Really cool.
I love it. I mean, that's the new format for podcasts. People do them live in front of audiences. Yeah.
Duh. We're doing it. Yeah. Do you want to talk about new home sales that came out today, Ash?
Yeah, let's jump into that. Why don't you want to go over the new home sales, and I'll jump into the market update.
Perfect. New single-family home sales came out today, and they were better than expected, and they were 9.8% above August 2023. The two things that I look at is, number one is we're up 4% year to date, which is obviously, it's consistent with what we've been saying is that single family is just fine. All the problems are multifamily and home center. The prices continue to moderate on the new homes. Part of that we've talked about in the past. It's home size, it's where they're located. There's a 7.8 month supply at the current sales pace, which I think is kind of pretty heavy. Healthy. If that bumps up to 9 or 10 months, then that's gonna, indicate that there's too much. It's not moving. So we're gonna want to watch that. That contrasts with existing home inventory that's like at 3.8 months supply because of all the reasons we talked about.
But could it also be strategic for your track guys due to the anticipated interest rate cuts and some of the special financing they've been able to put in place? That could disappear pretty quick.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I guess my one question is I look at some of the interest rates. Some of these large builders are providing people significantly below a 6 handle, and there's still inventory there. So my question is it really the interest rate or is it the price of the house?
Well, like what I'm saying is we're up 4% year to date in new home sales. So, that's solid. That's a solid number. If I look based off the last 5 years, other than the COVID spike, 20 and 21, that's as good as the annualized rate has been. So there's nothing wrong with the number. It's interesting, Charles. You're talking about the big tracks to the institutional buyers. Ash, I'm going to go a little off reservation here, buddy.
Again?
So I just saw where Invitation Homes, which is the largest
DeLaTorre
owner of single-family residences to rent, was just down by Lena Khan over at the FCC for some made-up things. but they settled for $48 million. They settled for $48 million. Something about how they handled security deposits and extra charges, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't help with housing costs when the FCC goes against them. I don't think, but I could be wrong.
What department went against them?
Federal Commerce Commission, the FCC, Lena
So
Khan.
they basically just said
on Sunday, and she's a very, very smart person, but everybody is a price gouger, a monopolist in her view. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe she doesn't think that.
Well, let's jump into the market update, and I've got a little thought here.
Charles, he wants to move on. Get that?
Quickly.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing I really disagreed with there. Nothing I really disagreed with. I just had to move on, or otherwise I'll go off the reservation farther. Milk, bread, and eggs, I was thinking today, right? That's the one thing you can't run out at a shopping center, right? At a supermarket. And I've been getting calls from people saying, hey, when's this shipping? And I'm like, well, we just took the order yesterday for 2 weeks, right? And it seems to me, at least on the spruce items and locations I deal in, that people are still running their inventories very lean across the board. We've got a slow drip of announcements going on. Spruce market got, I don't know, Greg, maybe I'll say there was a little bit of excitement this week. Somebody did something. Wasn't that from a senator or representative from Minnesota? She said somebody did something. And I mean, somebody did something. And so there was some buying.
Always doing something, Ash.
Yeah. Somebody did something in lumber. There was a little bit of buying, but it still didn't feel good enough, right? Mills still had large lists. Things were moving. What do you think on the spruce market, Greg?
I am a broken record. We continue to trade sharply sideways. Some items are a little further than others. I mean, 2x6 studs and dimension, we've had really good play on this week. Firm numbers. I mean, biggest challenge is, in some cases, our ship times are out 2 to 3 weeks. If there's anything that's weak, it's still, I think it's kind of more 9 foot than 8 foot, but they're both a little sloppy.
Can I ask a crazy question about 9-footers?
Yeah.
So we've been seeing all these curtailments at different places, and I'll preface it by saying you never want to see mills curtail because that's tough.
It's a bad sign for everybody.
It's a bad sign for. Why haven't any 9-foot mills pushed the clutch in at all?
I heard somebody did actually earlier this week.
I mean, they have.
It just takes time to clear all the rest of it out. There was a lot of it on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big thing that y'all are going to run into is going to be your log size, which reduces your yield of 6-inch, which is why 6-inch into the South is mid to high 5s, low 6s, depending on desto.
Yeah.
But 4-inch, you can get down there for, I don't know, highest bidder, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt, right? I mean, 4-inch 9 seem to be still the weakest item out there. One of the weaker items. My whole feeling on the market, and I really want to jump into pine too, Charles. It's like everybody seems to be sitting here waiting. Everybody you talk to go, I know the price of lumber is going up, which scares me because that usually means it's not. And they're all waiting, trying to transfer risk, asking for first quarter forward pricing at today's numbers when it should be $100+ higher. Nobody seems to want to put inventory on the ground, but they all have this feeling that it's moving higher. So what's going on the pine side?
Firmer tone all the way across the board, really, except for 8-inch, I would say. 4s are, your longer lengths were discounted 7-10 days ago. Now they're up $20. I mean, you're having guys that are selling $10, $15 premiums over print. You're having availability issues. I think the curtailments that happened here locally in the state of South Carolina and the sheer volume that was taken off the market kind of in a local level hasn't reared its ugly head yet. And I think that's going to put a lot of people in a sticky situation. On top of the fact that the spreads between spruce and pine are, 4-inch spruce versus pine. A lot of these jobs were spec'd in when 4-inch was cheaper in pine than it was in spruce. Obviously, the spread may have gotten a lot skinnier as of late, but there's still a huge spread in 6-inch, whether you're going to Florida or you're going to the Carolinas or you're going to Texas, right? I mean, we've got some really good stuff going on, but there's no urgency. Nobody is emotionally driven to do anything because it feel like there's no reason for what's going on right now to sustain itself. Now, to your point, Ash, you said, people are telling me lumber prices are going higher, but they don't want to pay premiums for the first quarter. And I mean, we're seeing the same thing. The big problem there is the ostrich trade only works out for a short period of time. And at some point, you got to pull your head out of the sand, you got to eat. And at that point, what's going to happen and what volume do you need to step in and buy? That's the great unknown. And, one thing that we touched on the last time I was on the show was some of the bad paper that was floating around.
Still out.
At what point
it's still out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
But at what point does that have to get covered in addition to some of the stuff that just wasn't placed or risk transferred due to the fact that people didn't want to pay the price?
Yeah.
So you could line yourself up for a double whammy. I mean, 2 before 16, almost $500 mil, right? 480, whatever. I mean, you're 515 delivered anywhere relatively close to a mil with a pending hurricane that could wipe out stumpage in that panhandle region in South Georgia like it did, 5 or 7 years ago? And they still haven't recovered from it from a raw material standpoint. And if you have a raw material pinch, your raw materials go up, mills can't afford to cut and sell at levels that are currently existing. What happens? And then you got downtime. There's a lot of things in play right now that if you connect all the dots and you look at it from a purely statistical standpoint, not an emotional standpoint, i.e., well, I had to get cheap because the market was cheap and my paper is cheap versus where I can cover today, so I'm going to wait. Statistically, you're being an ostrich and you're not acknowledging what's going on. I mean, today we ship Southern Yellow Pine studs to the Dakotas, fellas.
Yeah.
We got to remember we're in seasonal weakness, right? I mean, you're like the next 30 to 45 days is typically it's one of the weakest times of the year for price, and you've got this situation where end users are very comfortable with their buying strategy. To Ash, your point, just past time buying. Somewhere between just in time to just past time buying. That's going to work out fine. The wild card will be how much more curtailment happens, whether it's with a flash and a bang or an Irish goodbye. You know what that is, right, Charles? Yeah.
Yeah, you just walk out of a party. Yeah, I got it. I'm good at it.
I mean, there's
See you later. I'm out. Had enough.
Irish goodbye. You know what?
You don't even tell anybody you're leaving.
Bye to people. Just leave. And then you're like, it's like you were there till 3 a.m. They don't know.
Exactly.
They don't know.
Nobody knows any different.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you're there, Mr. Sandman. It's great. I love it. I mean, and we're seeing this, whether it's spruce or pine or western species, guys have been losing money for a long time, and there's a lot of mills that their prospect is it's not going to get better in the fourth quarter, and it may not get that much better in the first quarter. So there's guys that are going, hey, maybe I should just curtail for the next 6 months, and I'm going to lose a lot less money than if I keep running.
Opportunity costs are a hell of a thing, Greg.
And the catch is going to be somewhere over the next 30 to 45 days when we move from seasonal weakness to seasonal strength. What happens to these prices? We talk a lot about the supply side. The demand side is my big thing. I think that lower interest rates are going to be a big benefit for the multifamily sector in 2025. And when you look at the completions have been through the roof, starts are down 40% year to date. You're going to see a resurgent multifamily sector in the second half in 2025, and how that plays out with lower production, that's where you see nines instead of trading in the middling to higher 400s. You're back up at $650 to $700 delivered on 2x4 9-foot spruce.
Wow, that would be, and that could happen pretty quickly too.
I mean, quick is relative. Right?
I think it'll be a silent killer, man. It's kind of like high cholesterol, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I hate to use that as an example, but it could catch a lot of people off guard.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, or bad oysters.
That too.
I mean, listen. This is a market for. Think about it. If you're a mill, you're losing money and it's not a lot of fun and you're scratching and clawing. If you're in distribution, it's not that much fun either. Ashley, are you having fun? Did you have fun today? I didn't.
Have I looked like I've been having fun? Have I looked like I've been having fun for the last week?
You look beat up, man. You look beat up.
You kind of look like Poindexter ever since you shaved your facial hair.
No, I gotta get that back. I gotta get that back up. All right. So how should people position themselves in here? I mean, and back to my question, everybody thinks, am I wrong here? Everybody talks about the market has got to go up because we're at unsustainable numbers, yet nobody's building an inventory. So how should people position themselves if they have business sold for next year or the end of this year? Find the same guys that are shorting it and just roll the business over to them more?
No, I think you got to analyze your opportunity costs here, right? I think if you have the opportunity to clip coupons in a level of uncertainty that is immeasurable, right? Because in the supply, we've seen it. We've seen it a couple times this year. Things get tight, they move real fast for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden it changes. Well, I mean, if you've got certain deadlines that you have to meet and people actually, market participants hold you accountable to those dates, you could be in real trouble real fast. And trade, I'll tell you right now, and I know y'all been doing this a lot longer than I have, but trading a supply-driven market is probably one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. I mean, to understand some of the variables that are unspoken and there's no measurable, nothing. Like you're showing up for work and you're making decisions based on data that's about as clear as mud. And then next thing you know, you hear whispers about, the Irish goodbye curtailment. And you don't know if it's true or not, but you got to make a bet.
Yeah. Or you see the,
and then I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Cause y'all are,
this is where discipline as a trader comes in and is
agree 100%
paramount. Like Ash, remember like the deal was, it's like, it only matters the orders you take. All the orders that you don't take, right? That you don't get, none of them matter. It's only the orders that you take that matters.
Yeah. I mean, Charles, you're right on about it. I mean, gosh, if you have data that's clear as mud, you're doing pretty good in this business.
Well, man.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that's so really, but I guess back to my point, how should people position themselves for Q1?
I think you analyze it based on opportunity costs. Like I said, I mean, if you have the opportunity to clip coupons and you're at a decent margin, go ahead and do it, because once again, the variables that are at play right now and the risk level can be astronomical. And I'm not saying, COVID $1,500 wood, but I mean, if you see, and we'll just use 2x4 spruce as an example, or, 2x6 southern yellow pine. I mean, for a while there, all your links were trading under $300. And, you get into a scenario where you get complacent and nothing changes. And then you wake up one day and things change, and they change fast. And then what? You're playing catch up. And every time you play catch up, you're making emotional decisions because nobody wants to lose any money. And once you make decisions based on emotion is when you're in real trouble.
Ash, back to your point. Well, it all depends on who you are in the chain, right? That's what people should do. If you're a multifamily builder, you should be looking to lock in as far as you can, as much as you can, as close as you can to today's market, plus some premiums. In some case, $100 over today's price for Q1, that's probably a good number. Yeah. $200, well, then maybe you'll find someone that will do it for less than that. If you're in distribution hey, undervalued items, you should have more of. Overvalued items, you want to have less of. But the reality is, we're going into the fourth quarter. Business is going to be slower out of distribution. The seasonal weakness for the next 30 to 45 days. The big buying after that is going to be carload buying, people buying for Q1. It's not going to be truckload distribution buying. So you need to be cognizant of that and say, hey, you know what? If I sold 100 widgets in September, maybe I'm only going to sell 50 or 60 in November. And I always lose money in December. I think the only time I've ever made money in December was during COVID. I've never make money in December. I hate December.
Well, you need to work harder in December, Greg. You need to work harder.
Yeah, that's definitely my
problem. Not take so many days off.
Definitely my problem. I don't work hard enough. Yeah.
All right. Well,
hold on. I was specifically talking about December. Okay, that wasn't a jab. Let's be real specific here.
Joe, I had one point I wanted to bring up. We've been talking about premium lumber a lot, right? Home center grade lumber that mills sell with their formulas, et cetera, min maxes, and how we saw a bunch of that show up early in the year and middle of the year. And now with some of these curtailments, closures, it's starting to get a little more iffy, tight. We've talked about people wanting to get out of contracts when it's a time when they probably should get into them. So here's my question to all the mills out there. Why don't you put a floor in the equation of where your break-even cost is and jack the premium price up? Because for basically the last 20 years, you've been price takers instead of price makers. And it seems like a lot of the power is now in your possession to not be punitive, but say, hey, now look at lumber's a lot more expensive to produce. We need to maintain good business hygiene at the mill. And one way of doing that is if we are going to guarantee to ship the prime cuts of our lumber, the filet mignon and the grass-fed, grass-finished ribeye to a customer, then we need to have a floor in it and we need to have bigger premiums and not these commitments where we may take this or may take that or VMIs that are iffy. They need to really firm this stuff up. Why don't they do that? And what's the thought on that?
So what you're saying is because of their weakness, they should use that as a strength. I love that. That's like Sun Tzu, like textbook Sun Tzu. I love
Socrates.
I love it.
Socrates. Socrates.
God, you're making me feel really good. I'm waiting for it to get slapped around the other side of the head.
But wait, there's more, Ash. But wait, there's more.
You may have already won.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying, right? Because everybody wants that item. And there's got to be, a set. Now, are you talking about a floor on a price? Or are you talking about a floor on a premium no matter what the market does? I think those
So
are
I'm saying when people use a formula, they usually use a default print number and then add the premium for it and a freight adder and put min maxes on it, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm saying is, hey, you have to buy from us because there's a lot less production out there and you need this product. So we're going to have a floor in the market now of, let's say, $550 $1,000 plus the adder now. And we're not flexing on min max as we're shipping you this much. And if you need more, I know this is a unique thought. You got to buy in the open market.
I don't think it'll work. You're talking about a supply and demand driven market. I think the only way fixing a floor would work on anything, right? I mean, it's just like Southern Yellow Pine MSR, right? Depending on inventory levels and weakness or strength in the market, that MSR adder fluctuates anywhere from $40 to $120.
Yeah.
Right. But if there was a way for them to say, okay, all of our premium lumber is going to have an adder on whatever the market level is of X and not say, okay, well, I have volume that I have to get rid of. So instead of it being $55, I'm going to make it 20 so I can sell 45 cars or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
That would make more sense because then that's a market-based scenario, right? I mean, I understand you got to buy from us and that's great. But if they fix that premium, that's where I think the golden goose is. And you mentioned VMIs. I mean, there's a lot of these big guys that are walking away from them because they just weren't profitable.
Well, they're profitable in an up market. They're not profitable in a down market.
But I disagree with that because your opportunity. No, I don't think they're profitable at all for anybody. And I'll give you a simple example.
If you look at the whole overall thing, probably not.
I agree with Charles. That's not a good business model. I mean,
it's lazy. I mean, it's lazy business.
That it doesn't work.
Agreed. I mean, I agree on the VMI stuff.
There's always somebody who's winning and losing in that, and there's no win-win in that.
No, I agree.
Unless you think making lumber go away at any price with more cost is a win from a producer standpoint.
So my whole point is, let's get away from 50% or 60% of the market not doing anything, and the rest of the market having to set the prices.
You know what needs to happen? There needs to be enough production taken off, no matter what the species is.
Yeah.
And contract percentages at these mills, no matter the region, need to be reduced. So there's more open market participation from the big boys that hold everybody accountable based on what the true market need is. And I think at that point, you have more liquidity, you have more fluidity. It's really a market-driven scenario, and everybody's making decisions based on a true need. Not just, okay, I signed up for this, I have to take it.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Prime example is your premium lumber. So if you need X number of volume, you contract 20% of it, 30% of it, because somebody else is going to pay you for it because everybody has to buy it in a retail scenario.
You think about how, that whole model, skews thing. During COVID, part of the deal was there was producers that had no lumber available for like anybody other than their contract customers because they just kept giving their contract. Put it on the contract for 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, double your contract for next month. And they would have no open market wood whatsoever. Right. And,
opportunity costs.
And now here you go. Flip side is there's, people saying, hey, we're going to make our contracts go away. And so then you thought you had all this lumber sold, but I guess maybe you didn't. And so you don't have an established customer base for that extra production.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you need to go out and have an effective floor to market that wood too.
Well, and the other thing is if you want to be able to turn a light switch on and off, you've got to be able to be in a scenario to where your production facilities operate in the same way, right? So if you put in a floor, you can put in, whatever that premium is. And I had a thought earlier, but I lost because we went.
You're not old enough to have that, to do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem though, Greg.
It's already cocktail time. I understand.
No, that's not it at all. It has to do with everything. Phones ringing still. I got transportation companies and it never stops. But anyway,
true that.
My point is that if there was a way for production to be more fluid with demand, and I think there are some major producers out there that are positioning themselves with some of the upgrades and some of the additional acquisitions that they're making inside of an existing footprint that give them the flexibility to turn the lights on and off, in 3 days versus 3 weeks. And that's a huge deal, right?
Yeah. I was going to bring up one thing you wanted to. Charles sent me a note here, and Greg is going to just light you up on this one, man.
Can't wait.
Hey, let's talk about a possible port strike.
No. Hey, I'm going to listen. I'm going to do public service to all of our listeners. Don't worry about it. Don't care about it. Don't think about it. There will be no port strike. You heard it here first. Just like there's not going to be a rail strike. Hey, the government said they're not going to intervene, which means what? The first thing they're going to do on day one, 60-day
is intervene.
Talk gibberish about a port strike. There, I'm done.
Charles, do you port strike?
Look, man. I don't know. I don't know anything about unions. I don't know anything about how they negotiate. I know the government, obviously, just like what happened with the rail strike not too long ago, they'll probably intervene because there's a lot of. It'll shut down the whole East Coast, right? That commerce would
not happening. Don't worry about it.
So, I agree with Greg, but I think it's a talking point, though.
Well, I think that may have been I walked into Greg's office the other day, 2 days ago, when the market was kind of going up on futures. I said, "Hey, I think it's a lot about this port strike." He's like, "Get out of here!" Basically,
he's a non-believer, Ash. He's a non-believer.
But brings me to another point on futures, and I think it explained itself a little bit today. We were holding a pretty damn good premium there on November for a while to 4-inch.
Man, that thing was volatile today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all over the place. But it's still early in that contract, and a lot of things can happen on that one. Anybody else have anything else they want to chat about here, or we'll jump over to married, date, dump?
I think we beat a lot of horses dead there. Let's go.
Anybody want to start off, or I'll jump in?
Go.
Married. I think I still want to stay married to anything 4-inch. 2x4 16s, 2x4 12s, anything in premium. I think I mentioned that last week. And whether there is a port strike or not, there's still less Euro out there. And there's less premium out there. So I still want to be looking at 4-inch 9-footers. If I'm going to buy more 9-foot studs or 2 and better spruce, it's going to be a premium product or a select product, right? Date. I think I want to still date 2x6 and 2x6 different trims of, 9-footers, 10-footers. And those items. Dump, I'm probably going to want to start dumping, and we don't have much of it, 6-inch, 8-inch, the wides, some of those things that going into seasonal weakness probably aren't going to last real long. And also anything in this little bump we had in prices and excitement that we need to clear the decks on. I mean, I'm not going to say who helped us clear the decks on our no grade stamp a couple of weeks ago, but Dan, we found that's a good way to find. That's a good way to find out.
All sorts of inquiry now for it, right?
Yeah, now everybody wants to buy like multiple trucks.
And it's like, sorry, that was available. Everybody had a shot at it, but nope.
Well, nobody wanted to belly up the bar, man.
No doubt.
Right.
We're grateful for it. So that's kind of there's nothing really exciting there that I want to. And I mean, I did ask a guy today to eye up some places in Dallas with a bunch of storage. I still like Charles at 2x6 Southern Pine number. I still can't believe it's traded at what it's trading at.
Talking about 2x6, what let's talk about 2x6 16s in spruce versus 2x6 16s in pine.
Yeah.
I mean, that spread today is what?
Well, what is it? What is the spread today?
I mean, delivered Atlanta.
Delivered 300.
You're
300.
A hundo.
300 difference.
300, right? Yeah.
300.
All day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All day.
Yeah.
That is mind blowing.
It is mind blowing. That's crazy.
I mean, the theme for me in this episode is completely solely dependent on opportunity costs. Everything that we've talked about goes back to opportunity costs, right? Southern Yellow Pine can do the same thing that spruce can. No offense, fellas. That's $300 a truck. Okay. You do the math. It's a lot of money, right? We talk about bad paper. We talk about how do you step in? Well, depending, just like Greg mentioned, you step in the supply chain, whatever position you're at, what makes the most sense, but you make a decision based on mitigating opportunity costs because of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going on that, total cost delivered, whether you're buying, sticking a reload, retrucking, storing, whatever. These are things that really need to be taken into consideration, especially when you start looking at species swapping and some of the things that are going to happen in the future with spruce in general. So I don't know. That's just my thought, I guess. I don't know.
Married, date, dump.
Married, date, and dump. You want to do married, date, and dump? It was real easy. I already figured it out. You ready?
Go for it.
Mary Southern Yellow Pine stud production, everything from commodity to custom trims, 4 and 6 inch. We've actually been cutting some 8 inch lately, so that was pretty cool. That was a fun little experiment. Date is 4 inch Southern Yellow Pine, 12 foot and longer. Dump is going to be 8 and 10 inch Southern Yellow Pine.
If a mill came to you, Charles, and said they'd sell you 6 inch, 2 random for 2025, if you gave them a firm number, what number would that be?
That they would accept?
It doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, you would pay.
That you'd pay.
Random 8 through 16?
Whatever telly you want. Straight 16s. I don't care. We're just having fun here.
Yeah, straight 16s, I'd probably say $300. 300 and 315 delivered.
I was going to say you'd probably pay $350 delivered to Bishopville.
I mean, there's a lot of things I'd pay for. It just depends on what the liquidity looks like. There goes that discipline, Greg. The discipline.
There you go. Mary, I am married, and I'm married. We're married to 2x4 16s, and as long as I've got futures at a $30 premium, it says that's a good trade. Somewhere along the line, that's going to work out. At this point, the dump is last week I was DTF on 6-inch everything, and have been this week too. I mean, it's been fun, right? I mean, we're out there, and I mean, hey, yeah. I'm trying. Maybe. I'm maybe starting to get a little bit like, hey, I should slow down and take it easy. I'm not there yet, but but I'm not there yet. Dumping. I gotta look through the inventory a little carefully here in month end, whether they're, it's kind of the same thing. Like, dumping, you always want to dump anything that's like, whether non-primary business item that's just taking up shelf space, that's, creating interest costs, but you don't have any profit potential on it. And I need to decide, what to use those are right now. We've done such a good job, Ashley, of turning through wood over the last 60, 90 days that there's probably some things out there. I just don't know what they are yet.
Once we get down to the bottom of the pile, we'll find them.
That's it. Yeah. Well, it's like the guy that sends a truck out of a reload
Sasquatch
with 8 perfect units and 1 unit that looked like it had been sitting in the back of the yard for the last year. I'm like, dude, why would you do that? Right? I mean, call me up, say, hey, Greg, I got this 1 unit. You want me to put this on the truck? Fuck no.
Oh, man.
Okay, we may have to scrub that. I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. All right. Well, cool. I appreciate that. We need to, Charles, Greg, think about this too this week. We need to figure out who else we can have on as guests when we do this. Charles, think about who you think we should have on, who would be a good interview or a good person to have in the industry on here.
And I'd say anybody that listens to the end of this podcast, if they think they'd be interested, they should reach out to us. We don't know. I mean, we've got a pretty heavy duty vetting process, but
I'm just happy I passed the mustard. You know what I mean? That was an iffy situation there.
Cash is king.
You're deep in now. This is
well, I'm happy to be here.
All right, guys. Cool. Later.
All right, boys. I appreciate everybody showing up. Thanks a lot. We'll look forward to doing the next one.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.